Hey guys, welcome. Local Growth Academy. We are going live today with some more marketing training. I got something pretty cool for you guys today. Last couple months, we've been talking about systems and tools and Google this and Facebook that. Um, I had a string of meetings in the last month, some of the strategy breakthrough calls that I do. And if you guys don't know what that is, the breakthrough call is a call where I get on the phone with somebody, and my whole goal is just to help strategize a plan. I jump on the phone and we dive in and figure out where you are now, where you'd like to be. And then by looking at your systems and processes and websites and campaigns and all the other stuff that are involved, I try to figure out what's holding you back from where you are right now to where you want to be. And then I give you an action plan of how to get there. So I do these meetings. I typically have anywhere from 5 to 10 of these a week. And in the last couple months, I saw a pattern emerge that I've seen before, but it seemed to be a little bit more prevalent recently. We're talking about, with all the clients, I have to try to figure out where they're getting their money from, what's producing results and where opportunities exist they might not see. And so by nature, I have to try to figure out what marketing they're doing, what's working, what's not working. And I found something that was, kind of surprising. And I've seen it before. I just saw it a lot more in the last month. And it's this. Um, a surprising number of people couldn't actually tell me what marketing was working. I talked to people that are like, oh, I'm spending, X amount on Google ads and Y amount on SEO and Z amount on Facebook. And they couldn't actually tell me how many leads were coming from these channels individually, which ones were closing better, which ones are turning to appointments better, nothing, right? And so all they could say is like, well, I'm doing all of these things, and the total leads that I'm getting is this, and the total sales that I'm getting is this, right? And I think that what it boils down to is trying to figure out whether something is causing something or whether just something is, happening at the same time, right? And what our goal is when we do marketing is all about testing. It's all about figuring out, getting your message out to people, testing what's working, what's not. It's a constant test. And the reality is we cannot test what we cannot measure. And I think that's really important for you guys here. Doesn't matter if you're doing $100,000 in sales or you're doing $5 million in sales. You need to know your numbers in your business. You need to be able to say with accuracy that I'm doing this, it's costing this, it's generating this. I'm doing this and it's costing this, it's generating this. And if you can't do that, we really need to kind of take a step back and figure this out, because what happens that I see a lot of times is you might be spending, let's say you're spending $1,000 a month on campaign A, another $1,000 a month on campaign B, another $1,000 a month on campaign C, and you're looking at it, you're like, okay, I'm, it's not bad or it's not good, but I'm making money. Well, what could be happening under the scenes is two of those three campaigns could be total garbage, and one of them is doing all the heavy lifting. And you as a business owner need to know that. So what we're going to talk about today is specifically, we're going to talk about campaign tracking and optimization. I'm going to talk about what we need to do to track a campaign, what tools we need to use, what data points we need to track so that you can properly measure your campaigns and know with 100% certainty what is actually moving the needle in your business and what campaigns or marketing objectives you need to quit. So with that being said, let's dive right in. The first thing I want to do before we dive into how to actually track it is let's take a second and define what a marketing campaign is. There's a lot of ways to say this, but I'm just going to shorthand it here. A marketing campaign is a specific directive or specific objective to create some sort of marketing outcome. And what I mean by that is I have a specifically defined set of work or set of things that I am attempting to do with a goal of having a certain outcome. So for example, Google Ads. I am going to set up a Google ad account and I'm going to spend X amount of dollars, and my goal is to have X outcome. Leads, sales, views, engagement, whatever your desired outcome is. What marketing is not is saying like combining. I think the biggest problem that people do is they combine multiple marketing objectives. So for example, Google is broken into 4 specific spots. At the very top, you have Google local service ads. Underneath that, regular Google ads. Underneath that, Google Map Pack. And underneath that, you have your traditional organic rankings. Every one of those is a completely different objective. Every one of those is a different set of work to get there. Those things are completely independent. So if we were to say, let's say we're spending $500 a month on local service ads, $1,000 a month on Google ads, I'm paying for some, software or agency a couple $100 to make me rank better on Google Maps, and then I'm paying an SEO firm $1,000 a month for SEO. Those are separate things, even though they display all on Google, right? And that's the differentiating factor, is where is the effort or campaign being created, and we have to be able to differentiate that. So for another example, using social ads would be a campaign. Organic social or social publishing, doing things organically, would be independent. And that's where we're going to draw the line at setting up a campaign. Is it's a specific effort, money, or directive to achieve a certain measurable outcome. That's how we're going to define a campaign here. Okay. Now, with that being said, let's dive into what KPIs you need to be measuring and tracking. So at a very bare minimum, I want to track the following. And I'm going to show you some screenshots and some tools here in a minute to kind of help you to do this. But for now, we're just going to go over this verbally. The main KPIs that I need to track, and this is minimum. There's maybe some others, but very bare minimum, there's 5 things you need to track. Number 1, your total marketing cost. This is per campaign. You need to track your total marketing cost. Number 2, you need to track how many leads that campaign generated, right? So leads generated. Number 3 is how many appointments came from those leads, right? Number 4 is the total number of closed deals. In other words, new customers, new clients, new deals, whatever, new contracts, whatever you want to call it. Number 5 is the total number of revenue, total sales and revenue that you generated in that same period. All right. So let's give an example. Let's say I spend $250 on an ad campaign. That ad campaign generates 17 leads. And then out of those 17 leads, I'm able to set appointments with 4 of them. Out of those set appointments, I'm able to generate 1 closed deal. And that closed deal generates $3,000 in revenue. That's basically what we're looking at. We need to look at those 5 things. So when you're measuring a marketing campaign, the 5 most important things are: number 1, marketing cost. Number 2, number of leads generated. Number 3, number of appointments set. Number 4, number of deals closed. And number 5, total number of sales. So those are the 5 things that we want to track. And that's at a minimum. Now, arguably, you could come in and say, I want to track things like, how many junk leads there were. I want to track the appointment set rate, all these other things, right? And that's cool and that's fine. I believe in tracking the most critical things. And if you know the term KPI, it stands for Key Performance Indicator. KPI stands for Key Performance Indicator. It does not mean every metric possible. It means the most important ones. And very often, in an effort to try to track things, we track too many things. And when we track too many data points, there's 2 problems that come about. Number 1 is because it's complex and we're tracking too many things, we fail to do it. And if we don't have measurement, we can't test, we can't improve, right? It takes data to be able to test and improve things. So if we have too many data points, we might get frustrated, it might take too long, and then because of that, we fail to do it. And when we fail to do it, we fail to get the outcomes that we need. 2, and when even if we were tracking it, we get all these data points. If a problem arises, sometimes the excess data gets confusing on exactly where to look. So if anybody here has ever looked at a Google Ads dashboard or a Google Analytics dashboard, you can see like there are just hundreds and hundreds of data points. And for most people, unless you're a data geek like me, most of those things are like, well, what does that mean? This is up, this is down, this is left, this is right. And you have no idea what it actually means. And so the idea of key performance indicators is we keep our finger on the pulse of the most important numbers in our business, the most. And only when one of those goes wrong do we need to dive deeper into our data. And that's why I chose those 5. Those are the ones that tell me as a business owner and could tell you as a business owner whether what the true results of a campaign are. And if there's something wrong, then you can dig into the non-KPI data points later. For example, I gave an example a minute ago of spending $250 on a marketing campaign, generating 17 leads and 4 appointments and 1 deal close and generating $3,000. Well, that's slightly under a 10% marketing cost, right? I spent $250 to generate $3,000 in this hypothetical example. But let's just say I spent the same $250, I generated 2 leads, and I generated no appointments, no closed deals, and no sales, of course. Then now I have a problem, right? Now I'm looking at that and saying, okay, what's the deal? I spent $250 and I generated 2 appointments or 2 leads, and then none of them turned to appointments. Well, now I can say, well, the first thing linearly is the money spent isn't generating leads. And of course, the rest of it's going to be bad, right? This is all linear. The last few weeks, we talked about a funnel. This is a sales funnel. So I spend money on ads or SEO or organic or outreach or videos, whatever the campaign is. I spend money, and then it's going to generate leads. Those leads will generate sales. The sales will generate closed deals, and the closed deals will generate revenue. It's in order. So the reason that I picked those 5 is they are the most important 5 for you to track, and they are chronologically in order. I spend money, then I get leads, the leads turn to sales, the sales turn to deals, and the deals turn to money in my pocket. That's how it works. It doesn't happen in another order. You don't spend money, then make money, then generate a lead, then close a deal, then get an appointment. It happens in that order. Spend, leads, appointments, deals, revenue. Always in that order. So when one of those goes wrong, we know to look from that point down as a problem. So if I spend $1,000 on a Google ad campaign and I generate 2 leads, it's $500 a lead. That's expensive. That's the problem. That's where I look and I dig into the data around the leads generated. Now, let's say I spend $1,000 a month on Google and I generate 100 leads. That's pretty good. And then, but out of that 100 leads, I only set 4 appointments. Well, guess what? Your problem is in setting your appointments. So the KPI will tell you exactly where the problem is. All you have to do is look at the problem. Again, it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And wherever the number is low or not working well, that's where you need to look. And then from there, you can dive in, open up whatever tool or software or talk to whatever vendor you have that's doing a service and try to dive down and figure out why this one thing is broken, right? And that's how we do that, right? So we want to make sure that we're tracking those 5 things. Again, that is marketing costs, leads generated, appointments set, deals closed, and new sales. Now, I'm going to give you an example here of, one of the things we want to do when we're tracking this, and the reason we want to track this data in the first place, is we want to understand which marketing channel is giving you the most results. Most people here are doing at least 2 campaigns. So even if you're brand new, maybe you have a website and you're trying to get some SEO results, and maybe you're posting on social media. Those are 2 different campaigns, right? Maybe you're running Google ads and you're running Facebook ads. Maybe you have a guy that puts out door hangers for you and you're also running Facebook ads. It could be whatever, right? Most people here are running 2 or more campaigns. Most contractors and local service businesses I see running anywhere from 2 to 5 campaigns. So what we want to do is talk about, how do we know which marketing is giving you the most sales? How do we know where to spend our money? And I'm going to start with a bad example, and then I'm going to show you the right example. So let's just say that we have one campaign, and that campaign is, I'm going to use the same numbers. Let's just say we have a campaign and it's generating we're spending $1,000 a month on a campaign 1. And for that, we're getting, with that $1,000 a month, we're getting, let's just say 50 leads. Okay. As a matter of fact, let me share my screen and do this. I think this might be a little bit easier. Okay, so I'm going to pull up a tool here. I'll explain this tool in just a little bit, but for right now, I'm just going to pull it up. Okay, so let me give you a bad example of how not to track your campaign performance. So let's just say you have 2 campaigns, channel 1, channel 2. Let's just say this is Facebook and this is Google. And let's just say we're spending $1,000 a month on both. Okay. Now, let's just say that for this $1,000 for this Facebook, we're generating 50 leads. And for this one, we're generating 70 leads. Okay. Now, if anyone were to look at that, let's just say you're a contractor and you're hiring an agency to do that, right? Let's say you've got an agency doing Google ads and you've got another agency doing Facebook ads. So over here, I'll say this is Facebook. And over here, let's say this is Google. Okay. So if I were to look at this as a business owner and say, I'm spending $1,000 a month on both of these campaigns, and I look at this data point, which if you look at the ad platforms, like a Facebook ad platforms is only going to show you this data, right? There's some other things in the middle, but it's going to show you the total spend and the total leads generated. Google is going to do the same. It's going to tell you the total spend and the total leads generated. And if you were just to look at that data, anyone in their right mind would say, hey, well, I'm spending $1,000 on Facebook and I've got 50 leads, and I spent $1,000 on Google and I got 70. So Google must be better, right? That's what most people would think. The problem is it's not end to end. And this is the bad way to make marketing decisions. You cannot make a decision about your marketing based on only this data. It's not enough data. So what we need to do is expand our data and KPI measuring. And that's why we have these 5. Notice these 5 are the same ones we talked about a minute ago: marketing cost, leads generated, appointments set, deals closed, new sales. Now let's fill this in with some hypothetical information. Let's say from Facebook, we get, let's just say 10 appointments set. Okay. And out of those 10 appointments, let's say you close 20, let's just say you close 30%. So you close 3 deals, right? And let's just say that the average sale price for you is $3,000. So we closed 3 deals, an average of $3,000. We closed $9,000, right? Okay. So I spent $1,000 and I made $9,000. Okay. But the first data point we were looking at is I spent $1,000 and I got 50 leads. I spent $1,000 here and got 70 leads. Now, again, this one looks better at first, but what if we said this only generated 5 appointments, and we only, out of those, we only were able to close 1, and the same product price, same $3,000, but we only closed 1 of them. Now with this complete data set, which one is better, right? At first, when we're only comparing the marketing cost versus the leads generated, then Google, in this hypothetical example, looked like the winner because $1,000 generated 70 appointments. But Facebook generated less appointments, but more appointments set, more deals closed, and more sales. Now, in this example, I'm not actually telling you to choose Google or Facebook. This is a completely hypothetical example, and I'm just putting in random numbers here. My point is that you cannot compare, you cannot accurately measure any campaign without understanding the total cost of that campaign versus the total return of that campaign. The most important numbers in this are these 2. I spent $1,000 and made $9,000. I spent $1,000 and I made $3,000. Now, with that said, which one of these campaigns is better? It's this one. This is the first one all day long, right? And we can look at that and see, like, we've got this, we've got these data points over here. We got $1,000. We made $9,000. And over here, we've got an ROI of 900% and ROI of 300%. So we 9 times our money here, right? 1,000 in, 9,000 out, 9x, and 1,000 in and 3,000 out is a 3x. So that's the data points that we actually need to measure. And that's why that matters. So when you're trying to figure out which marketing is giving you the most sales, we need to track all of these data points on a per campaign level, these 5 minimum data points. And I would argue that I wouldn't even track anything more than that. We want to track these 5 things for every campaign that we do. Now, when we track these things, what we typically want to do is we need to, in order to track these things, I should say. So if you're still with me, we're tracking these 5 things: total marketing costs, leads generated, appointments set, deals closed, and new sales. So how do we actually track these things, right? So what we need to do is we need a few systems and tools in place, right? And let's talk about these systems and the systems and tools that we use to actually track this thing, right? So the very first thing that we need is the first 2 data points are going to come from our marketing system, right? So we're talking about Google. This is our Google spend and our Google leads generated from within the Google dashboard. These numbers come from Google, right? Or your campaign. In this case, well, this is Facebook, but you get the idea. So this is coming from our marketing campaign. If you're using a vendor, get that information from them. You want the total spent plus the leads generated. Now, let's just say that you are paying someone to do your campaigns. So let's just say you're spending $1,000 a month in Facebook ads, but you're paying someone $1,000 a month to manage it. You need to actually put both numbers here, right? You need to put the entire spend for you. So if you're paying, whether it's an internal labor, you're paying someone a salary or an hourly to run it for you, even if it's your own time, I would try to figure out a calculation for that. Or let's say you're paying an agency like me or somebody else to run that for you. You need to take your total marketing cost. And that's why it says total marketing cost. This is not your advertising spend. It's your total marketing cost for that campaign. So we put the total number here, and this is going to give us the most accurate numbers. We get the total marketing cost here, and that's going to come from the advertising spend plus whatever labor you have into that, whether it's an agency or internal labor. Now we have our total marketing cost, right? The next thing we do from there is our leads generated. And this number is going to come typically from your actual ad platform. So Facebook, Google, SEO, whatever, you're going to see some form of leads coming in. It could be a form fill, a click to call, but if you've got your conversion reporting set up correctly using like Google Analytics or Google AdWords or Facebook, whatever conversion monitoring tool you have, you want to measure the amount of leads coming in. Typically what we do is we set up those systems inside the advertising platform we're using. So if it's Facebook ads, we're setting up conversion events inside of Facebook ads so that any point in time I can look at my time period, I can look at my week, I can look at my month, and I can say this is how many leads came from this system, and we're going to take it, we want to measure that number. Now the rest of the numbers here are going to come from another system. So this is marketing. These first 2 of these 5 are your marketing numbers: total spent and total leads generated. The next number is going to come, hopefully, the next 3 are going to come from your CRM. We typically, most of our clients use, and we recommend a CRM called Drip Jobs, dripjobs.com. A guy named Tanner Mullen runs it. Awesome piece of software. And what it'll allow you to do is it brings in the leads. It allows you to set appointments. It has automation, automated communications, text messaging, emails, and it also includes estimating, invoicing, and all that stuff in the same system. Now, if you don't have a system like that, then this might be a few different things. Maybe you're tracking your appointments on your calendar, right? And then your deals closed and your new sales are coming from, let's say, QuickBooks or whatever finance software you have. No matter what, you need to track these numbers. But where you're getting these numbers is going to be whatever your appointment system is and whatever finance system you have in place. If you're using a system like Drip Jobs, all 3 of these numbers come from the same tool. And that allows you to easily get those numbers and measure them, okay? Now, once we have those numbers, then the rest of this is just measuring it, right? So the first 2 numbers come from our marketing system, and the last 3 numbers come from either your appointment system and your finance system, or from your CRM if you have a CRM that does both of those, all right? And now that we have these numbers, we have everything we need to analyze the performance of this. So in this example, I spent 2,000, made 9,000. This example, I've got 1,000 and made 3,000. And if we take a look over here, our ROI, this one is 450% ROI. This one's 300. Now, real quick, I'm going to shift for a second. So if you see, I have a Google Sheet up in front of me. I'm going to link this down below, and anyone that's on this live or catching it on a replay, I'm going to link this Google Doc in the comment section here. I'm going to pin it to the top of the comments. So this is a sheet that I recommend that you actually use. Like, we call this the Contractor Scorecard. It's a new tool that we just made to help people actually create this tracking, right? And here's what it does. So we have this, like we talked about, these are the 5 important metrics that we want to do. We want to do total marketing cost, leads generated, appointment set, deal closed. But what it does is it does this by channel. And so we have the ability to have up to 10 channels, and you can duplicate it and create more if you want. But what we have here is you can put all of these numbers in there, and then you can go over here and you can compare these channels, and you can see some really important numbers and understand what's making the bottom line of your business move, right? So what happens is, let's say right here, let's input some different numbers. I've got this set up to track weeks, and that's what I would recommend that you do. So let's just say for Facebook marketing, we're spending $500 a week, so about $2,000 a month. And let's just say we're spending about $1,000 a month on management. So that means we're spending about $750 a week. Okay. And so let's just say that 750 generates 35 leads. Out of those 35, I get 10, 3, and 9,000. Okay. Now what we do is we can come over here and say the next week I still spent the same 750. Leads generated, maybe this week I got 27. It generated 6 appointments, 1 deal, but that deal was a little bit bigger. It's 4,200, so on and so forth. We just keep doing this every week for each campaign. So let's just say the example of the 3rd week, I still spent 750. All right. And this week I got really lucky. Maybe I generated 42 leads and I got, 11 appointments set, 4 deals, and I generated $12,000. And I'm just making these numbers up, right? And let's do the same here with Google. Let's say I'm spending $1,000 a week here, right? Including spend and management fee. Remember, this is total marketing costs. Let's just say this is 50, 6, 3, 9. Maybe this is 35 leads, and I got 4 appointments and 2 sales and $7,500. Okay, so I'm just using these again. It's just ballpark, just made up numbers, right? So I'm calculating for 3 weeks here. I've got my total marketing cost all the way down to my new sales, the 5 key KPIs per channel. This is Facebook, this is Google in this example. Now what I can do is I can slide over here. This thing is going to automatically calculate, right? It's going to automatically add all of this up. So it's saying 750, 750, 750. My total here is 2250. My total here for these ones. So every time you add numbers to this, it's going to automatically calculate in your quarter total. We designed this scorecard to be used on a per quarter basis. There's 13 weeks in a quarter, and that's what we do. We track all of this by the quarter. And so all you have to do is every week you go in and you add these numbers per campaign, right? And at any given time, in real time, every week as you update this, you're going to get an updated quarter total. This is your actual results from this, right? Now over here, you've got a goal target. Let's just say for the total quarter, you're trying to spend under, $7,000 or less. Leads generated, you're looking at generating 500 leads. Appointments set, let's say you want 75. Deals closed, let's say you're looking for 15. And revenue generated, let's say you're trying to do $100,000, right? So if that's the case, that's what you're trying to do here, right? This is your goal target. This is your actual. So this column is automatically calculated every time you input your week, and it gives you this information right here. It's just your total. It's nothing fancy, right? So it just automatically calculates here. You input your weeks up to the 13 weeks and gives you your total. Then what it's going to do is give you some other data points. So this is a manual. This column here is manual. This is where we input our goals. So we say, I want to do this for my Facebook. I want to do this for my Google. I want to do this for my print, my direct mail. And you just input each of these campaigns and you put the numbers for your goals for that quarter. and your total accumulates here. And then over here, we have some other things here, some other campaign data points that come. So one of the things, so we're going to input and track those original 5, right? But we're also going to calculate and spit out a couple important data points that can help you analyze problems. So number 1 right up here, you see ROI. This is probably the biggest. So return on investment is very simply, and you can see the math here, P7 to P3, right? P7 is sales divided by cost of revenue, or your cost of marketing. So to figure out your ROI, all you have to do is figure out the sales that you generated and divide it by the marketing cost, and that will give you revenue. So in other words, if you spend $1,000 in marketing and you generate $10,000, your ROI is 1,000%. It's that, which is basically the same as saying 10x. So 500% is a 5x, 200% is 2x, 1,000% is 10x, so on and so forth, right? So this is going to automatically give you your ROI. The higher the number, the better the campaign. So even if you just collapse this and you just look at just these, now ignore those are all, we only did numbers here. But if I was looking at these two, this example Facebook campaign did 1,120% ROI, so about 11x, and this one did 650, so 6.5x. From that, I can say that my money is better spent on this particular campaign. And what I could start doing then is easing off of my Google campaign and easing into my Facebook campaign. Basically, this lets you determine where to best spend your money, what channels are working, which channels are working better, and what that ROI is, how you actually make the proper decisions for where to go. Now, let's dive into some of these other things that these are not KPIs, these are secondary metrics here, but we have a couple automatically calculated things because we got these 5 key performance indicators. We can automatically calculate a couple things. Number 1, cost per lead. So if I spent X amount of dollars and generated Y amount of leads, I can just do a very simple division and I can get my cost per lead, right? So 2,250 with 104 leads equals a per lead cost of 2,163. That's pretty good, right? Leads generated, not leads generated, cost per appointment. So if you have 100 leads and you book 10 of those into appointments, it's basically a 10% conversion rate. And you would just do the math on that and you would get your cost per appointment, right? So it's just your total spend divided by your total appointments. That's it. Now your cost per close is how much of this revenue came from your close. So in other words, to get cost per lead, you take your spend divided by your leads is cost per lead. To get your cost per appointment, it's your spend divided by your appointments, it's your cost per appointment. To get your cost per close, it's your total spend divided by your cost, your total closed deals, gets you your cost per close. Then we're also able to measure your close rate. So this is how many appointments you set to how many closed deal you have. So this example, you're closing 30% of those deals. And then we're also calculating the marketing percent of revenue, which is just the opposite number of this. So ROI is dividing A divided by B, and marketing revenue is B divided by A. These are basically the same numbers. They're just, some people think about them one way, some people think about them another. So ROI, if you spend $1,000 and you make $10,000, the ROI would be 1,000%. The percentage of marketing would be, I made $10,000 and I spent $1,000. So that $1,000 was 10% of my revenue. And that's the way this number works. So it's just the inverse percentage. Okay, so now moving on down this card here from our quarterly, we got our, all of our weeks get input here, each one of these, right? We get those from the systems. We've got our quarter actual. This is automatically calculated. We input our goals here in Q. It's automatically, this sheet's going to automatically spit out your campaign values here. And these are some of these secondary metrics that you want to keep an eye on, but are not your actual KPIs. And then the next thing we have a couple other columns that help us just manage this stuff. So when I set a goal for something, I want to measure its progress here. I've got a couple statuses here: on track, at risk, and off track. And so if we go into status here and we say, okay, well, this marketing cost, this is on track. We are doing what we said we're going to do. And then we can say over here, well, the leads generated, we're spending what we wanted, but we're not getting the amount of leads. So this is maybe at risk. The appointment set here, maybe that's completely off track. Like that's not even close to what I thought. I thought from 104 appointments, I would generate 50, or from 104 leads, I would generate maybe upwards of 50 appointments. So these numbers are way off of where I wanted to be. So this part here from T on over is like an internal status for you, right? So what we want to do is we want to use this sheet and track every week. When you enter this, or you have someone on your team enter these numbers, you want them to make, you or that person, make the determination on whether this metric that you're tracking is on track, at risk, or off track. And that lets you know in your team meetings how to have conversations about that. It gives you an idea of what to spend your focus on. If this is on track and this is off track, well, that's where you need to spend your attention, right? Now, the next column is for metric owners. So what I do in my team is when using these scorecards is everyone on my team is assigned, or at least certain people on my team are assigned to gather and input these metrics. So I could say, you know, hey, John is responsible for these metrics for these campaigns, right? And maybe I'm responsible for these because I'm the one doing the sales, right? So you can just put individual metric owners here, just type out their name or whatever you want to do. And so now every week, you know who is responsible for getting the data from these different systems, right? And then the last thing we want to do is metric source, or second to last thing we want to do is metric source. So this is where we say, where is this coming from? So right here, I could say this is coming from Facebook. This is coming from Facebook. This is coming from, let's say, Drip Jobs, right? This is coming from Drip Jobs. This is coming from Drip Jobs, okay? Then I go over here and I say, this is coming from Google. This is coming from Google. And this is coming from Drip Jobs, Drip Jobs, Drip Jobs. And you just go on down the line with where that data point is coming from, who's responsible for actually doing it. And then you have a note column over here just in case you need to make any ancillary notes, right? So this is how we actually track our campaigns and how we'd recommend that you track our campaigns. We've been using this scorecard system for some time, and we decided to make this publicly available for you guys and to kind of give you a little training on this. So that's what today's been about. And it's really just comes from a place of, I want you to understand your numbers. I want you to make the proper decisions when you're comparing campaign A versus campaign B, whether it's an internal or an agency, whether it's comparing my results to another agency, something that one staff member does to another staff member, comparing Facebook to Google, whatever it is, whatever your campaign objectives are, you need to be able to put these here. You need to be able to see what is the ROI from these so you can make the proper decisions on when to let go of a campaign and when to put more money into another. Or maybe they're all working okay and you want to keep them all going. But in order to make those kind of determinations, you need to be able to intelligently sit down and look at these numbers and say, this is what's actually happening in my business. And that's what this is about, right? So this scorecard here is just a tool to help you get there, right? Last thing I want to talk about here in relation to this, my team actually asked me this, like, why don't we just auto-populate these data points, right? Like if Facebook has, it's a software system, I can automatically get that data. Why am I not putting this into an automated system? And the reason is twofold. Number one, systems fail, right? I see all the time where an integration between tool A and tool B, the data gets messed up, mingled, broken, whatever. And if you're just looking at automatically filled out data, you won't notice. You'll just keep moving on about your day. And maybe you think everything's hunky-dory, and you just let it go, not really realizing underneath something's going on, right? So those tools break, right? So that's number one, right? Is much as we want to rely on automated data, sometimes it doesn't work correct. And so I want you to be able to look at this data. And there's also a sense of too, like there's things that you're going to notice as a person that software tools can't do. And that's number two, right? You might look at something and go, Well, man, I had my budget set to, 750 and it shows that like I spent like $7,000 this week. What happened, right? So something could catastrophically go wrong. And if a data point is broken, as a human, when you go in, you're going to see things that a software tool won't do you. So the tool here is going to give you the ability to review the data, but I'm asking you to go in and manually get the data. And it's so that we can prevent an automated tool from breaking, and also allowing the human eyes and your intellect and your knowledge and experience to be able to gather data that a software tool might have just missed, right? Um, I'll give you an example. Sometimes in Google or Facebook ads, you have a conversion set up, but sometimes it's possible that someone has like they're using like a VPN or their cookies are off and they fill out a form and the system doesn't really know that they filled out a form. So they're a lead, but the system never tracked it as a lead. So maybe your Google leads showed that you got 10 leads, but when you look at your form fills from your page, you actually got 12, right? And that's something, if you automated that data pipeline, you would not notice. But when you go in and look, you can actually see it. So you look at your form fills, you look at your cost, you look at your spend on Google, you look at your spend on Facebook, you look at how many form fills were made, you look at how many phone calls were made, and you write those numbers down and you put those in here. Does that make sense? So guys, that's really it. In the comments below, we're going to leave this tool. I'm going to clear out all this data. What you're going to want to do if you're using this tool, and I recommend if you're here and you don't already have a system in place to measure this data, then I want you to do that. Once you grab this thing, you're going to need to go up here to edit, and you're going to want to copy this. I'm sorry, I think it's file, make a copy. There we go. File, make a copy. And that will make a copy of this document into your Google Drive. And so you can edit this. I can't give anyone here edit permissions on this one because this is the template for everyone. So I need you to just click that file, make a copy, put it in your own drive. And from there, start using this tool. We're coming up on the start of the second quarter of the year. So it'd be awesome if you guys implement this, start tracking your data. Let me know how things are going in the comments. Let me know through private messages, outreach. Let me know how things are going. If you got any suggestions for this tool, let me know about that too. But this is it. This is how you track your data. And this is how you make smart revenue decisions for your business. Do more of what's working, do less of what's not, by tracking these 5 numbers throughout your quarter, and use that to make your decisions. All right, guys. That's it for today. Let me know if you got anything else in the comments, and we'll see you soon. Bye-bye.